Aloha everyone. Since it is a rainy morning, I decided I'd show you how I make my simple white bread. I've been doing this for a couple months now, learning a few tricks here and there. So I wanted to show you what I do. Because I live in Hawaii, on Hawaii Island, on the wet side, most of the homes here do not have air conditioning. So it's, humid. So I keep my flour in the refrigerator. The first step, and I'm doing this using all-purpose flour. The plan is to make 1 loaf. So the first step is I heat a cup of water. And I use water that goes through a filter. It's called Zero, the best water filter on the planet. There's a link to it in the description. Okay, so here's my 1 cup of water. And you can use basically any liquid, milk. I heard that you can use beer. And what I do before I heat it up in the microwave is I'll add some honey. About a tablespoon maybe. That's good enough. And stick it in the microwave for 30 seconds. And while that's doing that, I'll scoop in 3 cups of flour. When I first started doing bread, I watched a lot of videos, and it's hilarious, different techniques people use. People make big deals out of making sure your measurements are accurate. So this is how I do it. 1, and I don't fluff the flour or anything. I don't sift it. It's just 2 and 3. One guy that I watched making bread, he said, making bread, it's really forgiving, so don't make a big issue out of making bread. It really is not rocket science. So here I have my 3 cups of flour. I'm going to put 1 package of this instant yeast in, and it says it's, let's see, 1/4 ounce or 2 1/4 teaspoons. So just 1 pack of that goes on one side, and with instant yeast, you don't have to add it to warm water and let it froth or foam or anything like that. So that goes in one side. And then for the salt, I've also determined that the measurements don't have to be perfect. So I use maybe that much, whatever that is, who knows. And then I kind of blend that together like so. Now, keep in mind this flour is cold because it's been in the refrigerator. What are you guys doing? And I have read that the liquid should be around 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Oops, I'm stirring that with the wrong end. I wanted to use the other end for that. So I think that's a little warmer than that, but that's okay because that's cold. And to that, I'm going to add maybe a 2 tablespoons of oil, maybe, I don't know, whatever that is. And again, in the way I formulate things, it works. Just pour that in, start to stir. And with this, The more I have made this, the more tricks I've learned. So if it looks like it's just way too dry, just add, a little bit more liquid, water or whatever. If it looks like it's too wet, add a little bit more flour. That's what I do. So what I'm seeing is this looks to be a little on the dry side, but here's something else I learned. When using all-purpose flour, I like it a little dry compared to too moist. And I have used bread flour as well, and it really does make a difference when it comes to kneading. And again, this is from my experience, what I have experienced. So I have no idea why. Oh, yes I do. Supposed to let this rest for about 15 or 20 minutes. And according to the one of the videos that I've watched, that's just to let the moisture bind everything together or soak into each other real good. I don't know. I just know that it works, and that's that. Okay, so that is my gooey mess for now. I'm going to put the lid on it and come back in about 20 minutes. Okay, it has been about 20 minutes. Now I'm going to pour this out and start kneading. There's one guy that said try not to use a bunch of flour on the surface, but I don't like sticky hands, and it seems to work for me using the amount of flour that I use. So just dump that out, and I'm actually going to reuse this bowl to proof it in. Okay, so kneading, I think, is probably the most important part of making bread, for me anyways. So I knead bread or dough for about 8 minutes or so, maybe 10, using all-purpose flour. I have found that when I use bread flour, I don't have to knead as much. And I certainly am no expert, but I think it has something to do with the gluten or something. I don't know. So, yeah, this is what I do for about 10 minutes or so. I don't like a sticky surface. I don't like dough gooped on my hand. So, if it becomes too sticky, I just add more flour to it. And what I'm finding that works best for me is when this becomes nice and smooth, it's pretty much done and non-sticky, and the surface is clean, so nothing is sticking to the surface. This is about as sticky as my hands should get, if all goes well. Every single loaf of bread I have made turns out different. Every single one. Some of them turn out duds, meaning they didn't rise very good. And maybe that has to do with the amount of kneading I've done, or the amount of rising that's done. I have no idea. Okay, so for what I can see right now with this dough ball, it's looking pretty good as far as not having to add any more flour. What I have found between the difference using all-purpose flour and bread flour is the feel of this when you're kneading. Using the bread flour, for me, it didn't take very long to get it to feel bouncy and elasticy. But for me, using all-purpose flour, it seems to take a little longer to get that texture. And as you can see, I have no rhyme or reason for the way I'm playing with my dough ball. I guess I don't like to follow the rules, because a lot of people on their videos, they go, this, but, that, but, that, but. I tried that at first and it just became too much of a nuisance, so I just do whatever. And it seems to work out for me anyways. And this really is kind of relaxing. I actually tried making bread in the mixer, you know, one of those KitchenAid stand mixer things. That was just a pain in the neck to mess with the dough hook, and then you have to clean it, and this, to me, is kind of rewarding. It's not hard for me. But when I was first starting to make my own bread, I couldn't get the consistency right on this, and it was sticking all over the place. I had dough stuck between my fingers. It was a mess. Oops. And with practice, I've learned what works for me. Here's one of my other loaves that I made. And I get these bread bags from Amazon because sometimes if they puff up too much, they won't fit in my bread container. So here, you can see that this is almost gone. So I like to stay ahead of the curve. Ooh, I forgot what time I started kneading. But you can see, I don't know if you can see, but it's nice and smooth. It's not sticky. Some people like to pull it and do some sort of a test, elastic test thing. I don't know what they're talking about. Nor do I care. All I know is that when my bread comes out of the oven, it tastes like bread. And I think that's all that matters. So also when I first started making bread, I would use butter and milk instead of vegetable oil and water. Well, vegetable oil and water is much cheaper than butter and milk. And honestly, I did not taste a bit of difference between the two methods or ingredients. Boy, this dough ball is looking really great. Then what I do when I'm satisfied with this is I'll oil the same bowl that I used to mix the dough in with cooking spray. You know, spray the edge of it. Stick this in there, then squirt the top of this, put a lid on it, and let it rise for until it doubles or so. Sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. Sometimes it depends if I put it in the refrigerator or if I turn the oven on bread proof, which I have done today. Okay, that feels just about perfect. Okay, so there's my dough ball. Oops, now what I'm going to do is just spray this with Walmart cooking oil, canola oil. Stick that right there. Spray, spray. Put a lid on it. And I'll stick it in the oven until it doubles. And then we'll go from there. Okay, it has been probably 45 minutes or so in the bread proofing mode in the oven. So that's about double in size, I would say. A lot of people make a huge issue about punching it down. All I do is just put it out there, and just start flattening it out. Ooh, I'm gonna need my thing. Flattening it out and then sticking it into a loaf that will fit into my bread pan. So people make it just a huge production out of doing this. You gotta do it this way, and then you gotta do it this way, and then this way, and this way. Well, one lady just took it out of the thing and just started forming it with her hands, like so. And what I have learned is there really is, for me, no perfect right way of doing this. Just get it like that, the size of your loaf pan, and I spray it. Like so. Stick it in, like so. And then I cover it with plastic wrap and put it into the bread proofing for another 30 minutes or so, or until it comes over the edge about 1 inch. And again, this is the way I do it. So back into the proofing it goes for a second rise. Let's see what happens and how long it takes. I forgot to mention a very important step, and that is to spray the top with cooking oil or cooking spray. And that's so that when the plastic, when it rises and touches the plastic, it's easier to peel off. Okay, I just took this from the proofing oven. Looks to be about perfect. So now what I'm going to do, peel this back, stick it in the oven. I have set for 375, and I'm going to set the timer for 30 minutes and see how it turns out. As I'm waiting for the bread to get done, I'm going to have me a sandwich, and I wanted to show you this great bread knife I got on Amazon. It's huge. I think it's 14 inches long, but it works great. I'll have a link to this in the description. Bread should be ready in about 20 minutes. Stay tuned. Okay, it's been 30 minutes. And this is what we have. I guess I could have let it rise a little bit longer. Ooh, that's hot. There you have it. A loaf of simple white bread using all-purpose flour. As always, thank you all for watching, taking time out of your busy schedules, and I hope a lot of you try to make bread yourselves. Aloha.